Hey, Nick, how you doing? Sorry, I was trying to get in and wouldn't let me in for a minute. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, what a week in the ASAP Rocky trial.
Well, it's not been a full week. We have not started day 9 yet, so we're going to be starting that in a little while. But
Yeah. Okay.
so
Yeah.
far, though, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. It's perfect for restreaming to an audience.
Yes, it's only 2 hours a day. It's great.
Yeah. Today wasn't a 2-hour day, though.
Oh, I didn't know. How short is today? I didn't.
It just finished.
Oh, wow. They went a full. Okay.
Yeah, because apparently the judge assumed they would be done with the. I'll try not to spoil too much, but the judge assumed they would be done with 12 today.
Yeah.
That the prosecution said he will continue Monday.
So the prosecution is going to continue till Monday.
No.
They're going to continue with the cross on him till Monday.
The cross on him on Monday. Okay. So he spent roughly 4 hours trying to discredit 12.
Yeah, and the one thing I know we're kind of getting into things here a little bit, but the one thing I don't know if you thought about this at all, Nick. When they went on and on and on about these, the 3D printing guns and the polymer 80 and the ghost guns, because they're so spooky. Ooh. You notice they never introduce, and because the thing is, like, states like California have tried to get the sales records for things like that, and they offer no proof at any point that Rocky ever had a ghost gun or any sort of home kit gun or any of the various Glock third generation Glock derivatives that are out there. Yeah. They never bring any of the stuff that he's ever been pictured with one, had access to one, or held one.
No, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they have the magazine, and I will say that's a very bad problem for Rocky. Now, but as I pointed out, I own magazines for guns I don't own. Like, I own Steyr AUG magazines, and I don't own a Steyr AUG. And I have a case of AK-47 ammunition that I don't have an AK. But it's just, but to a normal person, like a regular normie, that's going to seem suspicious.
Yeah, but that's the problem for us on the jury is a weapons instructor.
Yeah, and I think that's good, but you also have to be worried because it's some of the worst advice you can ever get is advice from a gun shop and people at a gun shop, and that person might be an instructor, but they're if you go on YouTube, you can see self-defense instructors, and you're like, that's not I just get worried. I get worried for Rocky because whether, like, I don't necessarily buy a story of him playing around with a blank gun, but I don't think the state can prove their case. I don't think they have.
No, I mean, this case would have been so much cleaner if they didn't try to have all the fluff. You have, he's holding a gun. You hear 2 gunshots.
Yeah.
I mean, people are being convicted for less, but they also chose to put Relly on the stand. Now, if he didn't go on the stand, the defense would have called him. But
yeah, but I don't think they knew Relly was going to be as bad as he was.
Yeah, you have a point there. It's like with every witness, the prosecution in the YSL trial. Every YSL member.
Well, yeah, but I think, in the YSL trial, you should assume these guys, a lot of those guys are riding for the brand. They're gonna keep it 10 toes down. That Relly has no love lost for Rocky at this point. But I don't think they were really on top of, like, how bad, like, Relly's a poser. And, I do think, and not every person does this when they're prepping for a trial, but I got yelled at. Like, well, I didn't get yelled at, but I had an issue one time when I was an assistant, getting somebody ready for trial. And I said, here's what it's going to be like. Like, I'm going to, they want to be prepared. I'm like, I'm going to cross-examine you and treat you like I'm the defense attorney for about 10 minutes here. Just so you understand what this, like, because they're like, oh, I'll be fine testifying. And I'm like, you've never done it before. Here's how it's going to go. And I got them all fired up. And they went and complained to my boss. And my boss, like, what the hell did you do to this guy? He says you did this, that, and the other. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to prepare him for trial. Like, if he goes off like this on the stand, we're going to lose. Yeah. And, like, Relly was not ready for that. I don't think he was prepared. Like, he didn't think they were going to go into all the different things for him. But remember, chat, it's the Ethan Ralph rule applies. It's all fair game.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
And what did I say? Hey, we have a thing that I was going to talk about, and we have somebody here who helps us because I have a question about California self-defense, and to my speculation here is, why did they go with the prop gun defense and not purely self-defense? And so I asked Andrew Branca to give some input. I don't know if you saw the video I sent you.
I didn't, but I did look up a couple of news reports. Man, I hate these rap cases because everyone has a fake name, and they have two names, of course, because they have their real name and then they have their rap name. It's almost impossible to keep track of what's going on in these cases.
Yes.
And of course, this case, as you say, they decided not to go with self-defense. So it's not really a self-defense case. The reason they went with the prop gun is, so there's a couple models of how assault and battery works in the US. And you go to law school, and the model they teach you is assault is putting someone in fear of imminent harm, and battery is the actual touching of the person. And you could do one or the other or both, right? You could run up to somebody with your fist raised, never strike them, but put them in fear of harm. That would still be a criminal assault. Or you could sneak up behind them and punch them in the back of the head. They never saw you were coming, so they were never in fear, but you made contact, so that's the battery. Most commonly, of course, you get both, and so we call it assault and battery. And the difference between simple assault and simple battery on the one hand and aggravated on the other is the degree of force involved. So in theory, if you run up, instead of with a raised fist, you're pointing a gun at someone's face, you never fire it, but now you're putting them in fear of imminent death or serious bodily injury. That makes it an aggravated assault, a felony level assault. So now instead of a few months in the county jail, you're looking at a few years in a state prison. And it doesn't, in that model, it doesn't matter if the gun is fake or not. What matters is the subjective fear of the victim. The victim's in subjective fear of imminent deadly force harm. But the other way to handle this is the way that California does it. And California is not so much focused on the subjective state of mind on the victim. It matters to them whether or not you're using an actual gun or a fake gun, because otherwise it wouldn't matter if it was a fake gun, right? If the victim thought it was a real gun, that would be enough, because it would be the subjective fear that matters. But in California, for felony aggravated assault, it has to be a real gun. So they can convince the jury that it wasn't a real gun at all. Then he's out of the felony assault charge. And at worst, he's looking at a simple assault charge.
But in this case, there's only two charges. And the charges are actually firing the gun at the person. That's the only charge. So there's no brandishing of gun.
Right. So
there's
no
California
assault charge. Assault, basically an unsuccessful attempt to harm someone. So that's what the firing of the shots is in California law, an unsuccessful attempt to cause them harm. But if you use a real gun, that's what the statute requires. So if you commit an assault, if a failed effort to cause someone harm, and you use a gun to do it, it becomes a felony assault. But it has to be a real gun.
Yes.
So if it's only a starter pistol, that doesn't qualify.
Yes, and that was my understanding as well, that if it's determined not to be a real gun, well, then it makes everything better for Rocky.
It's just a misdemeanor. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I will say, I don't know if you know about this, Branca, or you saw it. They offered him a 180-day jail sentence if he pled out right before the trial started.
Pled out to what?
I think just to a misdemeanor assault offense, and you know, it
seems like a good deal.
Yeah, but I think for It's not. It's definitely. It's never a bad idea when you're turning multiple years in prison into, 180 days in jail. But for Rocky, it seems like he's, I think for him it's the principle, and it's interesting because during the trial, the state actually had a before the jury came in, they were complaining because of statements by the defense attorney Tacopina, but also in the press, that Rocky was looking at like 24 years in prison. And they're like, Your Honor, he doesn't qualify for that much. It's not fair. This is, false reporting.
Even if he was convicted, I think it's just a handful of years, really, right? It's 6, 7 years. Maybe he was got prior 6, 9 or something.
They said they were going for 8. But the reporting is, since nobody told anybody, everybody went, well, that's the max. 12 years for each. 24.
And the thing is, from what I understand too, though, that there's a range still that he could be sentenced to, and that I guess theoretically he could even get probation out of it still from the judge. So that's like they're very upset about that option for him. But I think for Rocky has no history, and you would think it would be if you're a rapper, go do some time in county and come out with a new album.
Good for your career, right?
No, but you also have the civil case. You have the civil case.
And that's the problem.
If he took the plea deal, he accepts guilt, and all of a sudden he's looking at a civil suit for millions.
But was someone harmed?
Well,
what are the damages in a civil suit?
Oh, you're going to love this. Relly claims the gun grazed his knuckles.
Yes.
3 knuckles. Now,
the physical gun, right? Because no shot was fired, presumably, if it was.
You can hear 2 shots fired on a surveillance video.
Well, you can hear the sound, but I mean, if it was a starter pistol, no bullet was fired from the gun to hit anybody.
And it seriously looks like scraped knuckles.
And there can't be a bullet injury, right? I mean, because the whole starter gun thing wouldn't work.
Yeah,
and they don't have the gun. The gun's not in evidence. So how do you prove beyond a reasonable doubt it was a real gun?
Yeah, but also the thing I meant with this, because this is 2 different situations. First, there is a slight brawl. You could argue Relly was attacking Rocky. They got separated. Rocky and started to walk away. Now Relly follows. There's a new altercation, and then you hear the 2 gunshots. That is why I'm wondering, would self-defense have been an option here?
You're leaving out a big point in the first interaction. That first interaction, Rocky is seen on camera, and it's clear. Even Relly admits that he saw this. Rocky tucks. There's video of Rocky holding a pistol-like object in his hands, and Relly says, I can't believe he pulled a gun on me. And yes, after he's got a gun pulled on him, the other guy pulls a knife. 12 pulls a knife out on Relly, and then Rocky and 12 walk away, and Relly decides, I'm going to go chase these guys down and fight them again. So I do think there is some idea that, why would you charge somebody unless you knew it wasn't a real gun?
Right. So that's, of course, the defense would say that's the only reasonable inference here, right? You're not knowingly bringing a knife to a gunfight. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, no. Relly had no weapons on him. He challenged a guy with a knife and a guy with a gun.
People. Certainly, if I'm the defense, I'm arguing the only rational inference is that even he didn't believe it was a real gun. But people do that. I mean, people, they're held at gunpoint and they say, "I dare you to shoot me," and then they get shot. Of course, I mean, it happens all the time.
Oh, I agree. But there's a lot of this case is just it's been very interesting because they've had to admit, for what they've not been able to show. For example, their firearms examiner.
The state has.
Yeah. They weren't able to show. They were hypothesizing that the shell casings that Relly had gone back and recovered indicate, based on the firing pin strike, that was the only tool mark examination they did. They didn't actually talk about extraction or any other issues.
So what do they have? I don't understand. So they have something. What?
Yeah. So Relly went back the next day and claims to have found the shell casings. that the cops could never
It was
find.
within an hour. He went back in about an hour away from the.
Oh, it was an hour?
shooting.
Okay.
But this
After
is
7
witness
cops.
testimony. There's the cops don't have this in evidence.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
yes.
Oh, so
No,
I mean,
He brought them to the police.
yeah, but there's an obvious chain of custody issues here, right?
Well,
Oh, it's
yes.
enormous. Yeah,
You come to my
especially
house, I probably have 15,000 brass casings I could give you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Originally, he said, "Your mic, Sean. Your
Got
mic."
abducted.
Originally, Relly said, "Oh, that's me on the video. You see me finding the shell casings." And then during direct examination, "Oh no, that's not me. That's not my clothes. This looks like a homeless person." So all of a sudden, he doesn't have himself on the scene of the incident, picking up the shell casings. And speaking of, then no, I don't have something. Hi, AV.
Hi. I have something. I'm in here. I got it. How are you?
Yeah, when you join a Nick stream, he just pulls you straight up, guys. Forewarning. There is no buffer.
Listen,
Yeah, I know
we have
AV
to
has
talk
limited
about-
time.
We got to talk about rocket shells. I'm here. We got to talk about rocket shells. We're in here. Let's do it. Hi, everybody.
Hey. Oh, sorry, Andrew.
That's all right. I got a box head.
Oh no,
Box head, square
Branca!
pants.
There it is. It's gone. There it is.
Yeah. AV, just before you went on, we talked about why didn't they go with self-defense? Because, in my opinion, since it's two separate altercations, and really clearly went after them. But then again, Andrew also pointed out, yeah, but if they can convince the jury it's not a real gun.
I mean, it's
no
kind of
case.
weird to me. And I haven't been following the case. So everything I know about the case, I learned in the last 15 minutes and from what I've learned here on the show. But it doesn't seem to me like these would necessarily be alternative defenses. I don't know why they can't do both. What I did in self-defense. And by the way, it wasn't even a real gun. I mean, why not make both those arguments?
Yeah, those are fair
So
points.
we heard in opening that he fired the warning shots because Relly was hurting the others, Ills. He was fighting Ills. So it has been argued in yep.
Yeah, and the plea deal was rejected. So, if you're starting from the beginning, the plea deal was rejected. He was looking at 180 days, 6 months to do in jail, right? For accepting guilt and all of those things. But at the same time, if you have a witness that's going to the crime scene and bagging and tagging things himself, after 7 police officers were there, I mean,
we don't even know the right bag because it could have been a paper Dunkin' Donuts bag or it could have been a black plastic bag.
Plastic bag.
Right. So cops had been in the scene and they had not seen these shells, right?
Yeah.
And so the man,
I mean,
he went.
I'm feeling
and
pretty good for the defense.
Right. Relly went and retrieved these things by himself an hour after 7 police officers with body cams in LA could not find those shells. And then Twitter did its job. And Katt, you know this because that person on Twitter was just like, here's a photograph of this man at a gun range shortly before this happened. Maybe that's where he got the shell casing.
And after this
I mean,
was
shells
after
are
he
easy
denied
to get, right?
knowing
They're
guns.
not controlled in any way. I mean, as I mentioned, I was a competitive shooter for many years. You come to my house, I probably have 15,000 brass cases. I'm just waiting to reload to use them again. You go to any gun range, you can just pick them up off the floor. No one's going to stop you from doing that. I'm feeling pretty good for the defense because I don't believe the shell casing story. And keep in mind, of course, you guys all know this, but for the audience, he doesn't have to prove he's innocent. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty. So where's the state's evidence that looks anything like a reasonable doubt that he's guilty? They've got no gun. They've got a bunch of people I read in the newspapers online that say, oh yeah, he always carried a fake gun. We knew he carried a fake gun. So there's evidence that it's a fake gun. It's not a real gun. The criminal statute requires that it be a real gun. They don't have the gun. They don't have any bullet injuries in anybody. They have these cases of questionable provenance, to say the least. I'm feeling pretty good for the defense.
And I would say the cross-examination currently of 12E, who is someone that was present. They're part of the ASAP collective, part of the Friends group. They finally took the stand today, and it was like an hour and a half of direct. It's been almost 3 hours of cross-examination. And after court ended today, the judge had to yell at the prosecutor, and the prosecutor yelled back with the judge for like 2 minutes. You have 90 days on Monday. That's it. We're done. And most of that has been repeated questions and hypothetical scenarios, and arguing about this prosecutor, John Lewin, keeps trying to take a summary of an interview that the defense gave to the prosecution to summarize their interview with 12 before he took the stand. He keeps calling it a statement and asking this witness questions about his statement, but it's a summary that the defense gave to the state of their interview. And so they've had like a bunch of sidebars about this one particular issue, fought over it before they came back from the lunch break, because John Lewin, the prosecutor, just wants to try any which way to discredit who I think is a very likable, sympathetic, doesn't seem like he's lying type of witness. He'll concede when he can't see something in a video. He's not going to try to pretend and stretch the truth just to fill in gaps to give an answer. He'll concede.
And a summary by defense counsel is not a statement.
But he keeps trying. And the judge is yelling at him in front of the jury that it's a summary, not a statement.
Even a transcript of a deposition. You know, the witness can always say, I don't care what the transcript says. I never said that. I was never given a chance to review this and correct it. And, you know, that transcriptionist could have written anything. Those weren't my words.
By the way, Andrew, do you want to see what Relly claims is the injury from when the bullet grazed his knuckles?
Oh, show him, Nick. Show it to him. Show it to him, Nick.
So he's saying a passing bullet did this. All right, let me take a look.
It was like a movie, and he felt it hot. It was hot.
I mean, is it theoretically possible? I guess, but there's a lot of ways you could get an injury like that. It's not obviously a gunshot wound, for sure.
Would you expect them to go to the hospital immediately?
You know, I don't know. I mean, listen, you can have a grazing wound from a bullet. It can happen. Could this possibly be that? Maybe. But it's not like, you know, he's got a bullet hole in his abdomen and there's no question about what caused the injury. Would I go to the hospital for this? I wouldn't.
Now,
I used to be a mechanic. I used to get hurt like this all the time.
Yeah, but something that caught my attention is that he claimed it grazed his knuckles. At this time, he's more or less hiding behind somebody. I don't know the position of his head.
He testified that he was using Ills, the third friend that came along, as a shield.
Yeah, when this bullet grazed his knuckles. Now, how do you normally hold it? If I hold a person, I hold like this. It's really hard for a bullet going that way to graze that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he kept trying to animate he was shooting straight down. But what happens if you shoot straight down? It's going to impact the ground. You would imagine there'd be some ricochet. This is supposed to happen in a parking lot with cars all around.
Well, there's another dynamic too. I mean, for it to happen straight up or straight down, there's a limited distance the gun can be from the hand, right, vertically, because either it's going to hit the ground or it's going to be, you can't hold it any higher. At that degree of proximity, you're going to get powder burns. You're going to get other forensic evidence of a gunshot.
Yeah, and it would be, and you would clearly see on the surveillance video somebody holding a gun like this, or like this,
which is
like a movie.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of vertical gunshot cases. I think I've seen a couple in my career. They can happen. Usually, it's when people are fighting over the weapon, but they're not common.
No.
Here's the other thing. Like he's also has this other lawsuit behind the scenes where there's this criminal lawsuit that we're seeing, and then there's this civil lawsuit for $30 million where he's suing A$AP Rocky and using Camille Vasquez and Johnny Depp's attorneys to do that, Ben Chu. Both of them have been at the courthouse in this last week. And I don't know if there's a firm confirmation that they're representing him, but they've been there. So
no, they actually also took over the Camille took over the personal injury case as well. She's representing both his civil actions now.
Yeah. Well,
it's crazy.
Well, his Rocky's baby mom's got a lot of money. Are they
she
married?
Does.
Or are they're not married.
I don't think they're married. I don't think it's like official, but I know they have children.
Well, they better get divorced. Getting sued for 30 million, that's a lot of money. I mean, what could possibly, so what are the damages for 30 million?
He claims what was the claim now again?
Emotional duress.
Emotional
IIED.
and
Negligence.
permanent damage.
Yeah.
Permanent damage.
Two different suits. So the defamation one, he's claiming that Joe Tacopina's statements to Rolling Stone and TMZ are defamatory. And there's really no statements from Rocky in there. It's just Rocky had to have known that these things were false. It's an agency agreement. So it's really just statements that Tacopina made to the press. The personal injury is, yeah, like they were saying.
I mean, defamation can get expensive, right? But even Johnny Depp, with all the money he lost, with the career he lost with the Amber Heard thing, what was his award? 8 million or something? 6
Something
million?
crazy.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. So the
30
separate
million is a lot of
lawsuit.
money for defamation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. The second one, I think, is IIED, so an intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, and then the tort versions of assault. So that's what we're looking at. But I know somebody that knows him, and he seems pretty confident in this right now.
yeah, I would feel pretty good if I was a defense. There's no gun. There's
No. I mean, really, as far as like those personal, like those.
You mean the plaintiff in the civil suit? Yeah, but the lawyers always make the plaintiff feel good. You can't.
Yeah.
They tell, oh, don't worry, you're going to be rich, man. Don't worry about
but
it.
now they have his testimony on the stand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Has anybody told Relly he sounded like a complete moron at trial? Because that's what he needs to know.
I don't think so.
That was awful.
I don't think he would listen to it.
I think he might, because he claims he's an artist, a rapper, and everything. So it was so funny. I laughed out loud when 12 said, "He's not a rapper."
Yeah, that was so good today. What was it? Oh, you went on tour with Rocky, right? You spent more time with Rocky while you were on tour than you spent with Relly, right? Did you ever go on tour with Relly? And he's just like, he's not a musician. So, like, what?
Oh, and Relly tried to, hey, I was on the verge of, or I had my peak, or apparently, I mean, my AI rap songs I do with Suno, I think I have more views than Relly on those.
Oh.
He tends to be, I think it's like hip hop artist management. Like that's his forte, right? But here's the issue with that. You know, it came up on Cross, and you know, we did some digging into Joe Tacopina. He teaches at Harvard. He's in Boston with me here, right?
Oh.
Like he teaches at Harvard and adjunct, but he specifies in cross-examination for up-and-coming law students. So to see Tacopina, who's represented Trump in the past and many celebrities, to see this current adjunct professor cross-examine Relly, and Relly wanting to go to war with him was interesting. And behind the scenes, people are telling Relly, stop posting on social media. What did he do the whole time? He posted today, just on Instagram, just continuously post. Like, what are you doing? Why? Stop.
He posted directly in response to a thread on X about the case. He put a bullseye when someone said that he was a strong witness or something like that. It was like, it was in between. I think it was over the weekend. It was like Friday, and he continued to testify this Monday. So he was still on the stand.
And in today's world, for people posting on social media, it's like 30 years ago, we would just call it thinking. You know, these thoughts were inside our head. You know?
That's true.
But now when people think, they have to type it into that app. They have to put it on social media. They can't help themselves. If they're not doing that step, it's like their brain's not working. Their brain,
or like they don't exist. They think they don't exist anymore if they're not present online.
They can't help it. I know a lot of super smart people who get in legal trouble, and they just cannot stop themselves talking on the internet.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, in the words of the judge in this case, stop. Like, stop.
God.
Yeah. I was contemplating having a stop counter. No. Somebody in my chat said, take a shot for each time and say stop. And I said, no, I can't stream with that.
Who's the judge shouting this at?
So this is
sometimes both.
Yeah, both parties for sure. Today, in fact, he started the proceedings by saying, listen, no more speaking objections. If you guys do it, I'm going to charge each side $1,500 in fines. And I'm
That's
going to
great.
count, and I'm not going to tell you until the end how much you've accumulated. That's how bad it was.
So how's the judge been? Has the judge been okay? Because it sounds like a judge who likes to keep control of his courtroom.
Yeah, but he shouts a lot, but it more or less wasn't until today, on day 9, he actually enforced something.
Well, it's a common problem, isn't it?
Yeah,
Judges who bark a lot.
Prosecutor Lewin, in my opinion, is at par with Miss Love regarding the disrespect for the judge. And then
We're all learning at the same school.
Yeah, and then I heard
They're learning
the
they can get away with
say,
it. So
yeah, today the judge said, "You're the best cross-examiner I know." And I just say, "Oh, you poor people in Los Angeles, if that is the best you have, how bad are the others?"
Well, wasn't Kamala a prosecutor there?
San Francisco.
Okay. I think at some point in the state of California.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to send DMs to Emily D. Baker because she's been a prosecutor in that office about a decade ago. And yeah.
cross is hard. I mean, world-class cross is hard. It's really an art. It's
yeah. I understand why
I think a lot of people just can't do
it.
I would say 80-90% of lawyers. I mean, will never be very good at cross. They're just not good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just the waves of witnesses. If you have one that's like, I would put Relly at number 5, but he's not Woody, right? Yeah. Relly's up there though. Like, you know, you're going to get somebody that's combative. And like, I've been in conversations where something was said to him, and then the next day he tried to emulate it, and it was like, dude, no, that's not how you do it. It's just like, hey, just pay attention to the questions. If you don't understand something, maybe ask it, like, say, can you clarify? And he's getting upset and angry, and it's just like, why are you looking at my Instagram? Why are you over here? And it's just like, you're being extremely combative, but that's where the judge gets frustrated, because the judge says, stop. Because the judge is now trying to control 3 people, the witness in the witness box, the prosecutor trying to put in an objection, and then the defense attorney trying to, you know, also put in a harsher objection.
Yeah.
So it's like the judge is trying to control 3 people, and he's nearing retirement. And it's just like, everybody stop, stop, stop. You know, because it's like you need to articulate and hear what everyone's saying. So oftentimes he uses his court reporter, and she's been great. He's been like, okay, before I rule, everybody stop. Can you read back what just happened? What was the question? Things like that. And, you know, with this being high profile, Rihanna's been in the courtroom. You know, it's been very interesting, to say the very least. Katt, what do you think?
I think it's like, I thought it was so both ways, and I think Lewin just gets under my gears, so I had a dislike for Lewin much faster. But I had a concern, you know, I don't like to see a defendant possibly risk, you know, the jury not liking them or not sympathizing with their argument or their story because they find their attorney unlikable. And I was a bit worried that Joe could come off that way, sitting in his chair, rocking back and forth, making all these emotes. But the way that John, it's like, anything that I think could have been over the top, perceived as over the top from Joe, Lewin took it to the extreme that it washes it down. And I think that was such a stupid move on the prosecutor's part. Like, why make yourself disliked by the jury when the jury could be inclined, if you weren't also in the room, to dislike the defendant's attorney?
Yeah, I think prosecutors, I don't like theatrical prosecutors at all. I think they should be very boring and very bureaucratic. They have a job to do. The job is proved guilty on a reasonable doubt. And if they're resorting to theatrics, I immediately do not believe their narrative of the case, because they're trying to appeal to emotions rather than appeal to the evidence and the law. I feel quite differently about the defense. I think the defense ought to be theatrical. I mean, they're fighting for their client's life. So the very different jobs, very different roles. But my preference, when I see theatrical prosecutors, I instantly don't like them.
Yeah. It seems more like a story than evidence, truth, reality.
I mean, they have to tell a story, but it should be straightforward. This person did this, and we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and here's the witnesses, and here's the evidence, and we put it in the hands of you, jury, but we ask you to return a verdict to guilty. I mean, that should be the tone of the prosecution.
Yeah, and they went relatively quick. What do they have, Kat? Like something like 6, 7, 8 witnesses for the state side, and they rested yesterday. And we caught some mistakes in their
I think
opening
6,
argument.
yeah, probably about, yeah.
It was very light. Like they had one police officer who responded to the scene, really didn't find anything. I call her the Maybach music girl. She's Australian. And
Oh,
the woman that was high. Yes.
the Australian
She was high.
model.
She was smoking a doobie and admitted it on cross-examination when she called 911. So we have that. And then you have Relly himself, like witness number 3. After that, maybe one police officer, one detective who admitted that there were 4 people on the surveillance footage. Relly came to the police and was like, hey, here's these shells. Like, here's these shells. Relly did that.
At least it wasn't solo cops.
Oh, well, we got to talk about the solo cops. Massachusetts has gotten me like tired. But aside from that, the detective admitted that he did not call the other 3 people that were in the surveillance footage. Why would you not do that?
And then complain that you didn't get to speak to 12E. So today, 12E's on the stand. 12E this last week declined an interview with the prosecution, but the detective was on the stand insisting he was well aware of 12E this whole time, but they never make any effort to go and speak to him. And this happened in 2021. So some of the questioning that the prosecution does, it ends up underscoring lack of complete investigation, crappy investigation. Like, how can you fault someone for not wanting to speak to you last week, but you had 4 years to try to reach out to them? And I get that that's argument. That's not really something that should come out in questioning, but
and again, late disclosure. Apparently, the bullet guy,
oh man,
the tool mark guy.
They finished with the tool mark guy. I've never seen a trial or even heard of a trial where the star witness for the prosecution is the tool mark guy. And
it was just from a picture. There wasn't physical examination of the casings. It was just from a picture.
Oh, so the tool mark guy never had the physical case?
No.
Where were they, Branca? We were looking for them. This is an empty bag for a reason.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but through these pictures, he managed to get out. Okay, this ice from the markings and stuff is from a ghost gun.
He didn't say that part made it a ghost gun, but he said it was a Glock, like, the shape of the firing pin impression,
which is a very distinctive shape, by the way. So
yeah, he talks about that, and I will say overall, his description of explaining basic firearms is actually very well done compared to most. But once again, you're dealing with a very professional police department, not the Katt and Massachusetts police.
Oh my god!
But he did talk about it's a Glock patterned firing pin impression, but that also means it couldn't just be a Glock pistol, but it could be literally basically anything out there, given the proliferation of 3D printed and ghost guns.
It's not just that. There's a lot of factory manufactured clones now of Glocks.
Yes.
So, and for those who don't know, a typical firing pin, it's like the tip of a pencil. It leaves a round dimple in the rear of the case.
Round like that.
A Glock firing pin is rectangular. It leaves a rectangular mark. So it's very obvious that it was a Glock pattern pistol, but there's a lot of Glocks. There's a lot of Glock clones. There's a lot of...
but in this case, since the pin mark is teardrop shaped, it has to have been an aftermarket slider.
Mm-hmm. That was his argument, was that it was an aftermarket piece. But I don't even think that's clear, because you could fit an aftermarket pin into a factory weapon. But he goes on and on and on about it. And it's just basically any Glock, basically any Gen 3 Glock derivation you have out there, which means it could be a gajillion guns. But the prosecution then doesn't do the next step of saying, can we place a gun like that in Rocky's hands? There's never, obviously in California, everything's registered.
Right, Sean.
He doesn't have that. There's never anybody saying Rocky's ever possessed one outside of California and brought it back with him. There's never anything tying it to him. There's just some sort of black-looking gun thing in his hand on camera, and that it could be any gun at that point. So they never tie in the final step of, putting some sort of Glock pattern firearm in his hands. The one thing they have that is slightly bad for Rocky is when they raided his house and they did the search warrant, they found a Glock magazine sitting in his box of like ammunition, but that's it. That's all they have.
Yeah, and the ammo
Glock magazines are everywhere.
I understand. Well, I was bringing up the point, Branca. Like they point out, he's not registered one in California, but I have magazines for guns and weapons that I don't own. You know, that doesn't mean
for sure.
Yeah.
But where's the match is the question. It's almost like, in Canton, Massachusetts, we can scoop up blood in the snow. We can do that. No problem. But it's just the retrieval of evidence.
Without the gun, I don't see how you get to proof.
No gun.
It's all hypothetical and speculative, and it could have happened. It's the kind of information that's sufficient for to start an investigation, right? We should look into this. We should see what evidence we can find. None of this strikes me as proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Thank you for mentioning the word hypothetical, because today was insane. Because the prosecutor in cross-examination said, he told 12 that when I give you a hypothetical, you must assume that this hypothetical is the truth. And I'm sitting there with my jaw on the ground. Is that even remotely possible to argue in a court? Is that a local California thing?
Yeah.
But
I think he sounded ridiculous, so let him sound ridiculous.
It was that's poorly phrased.
Yeah.
To that guy.
Especially to a non-expert witness, right? To an expert witness, I mean, you can set hypotheticals before them, right? And say, if these facts are true, what would you expect the outcome to be? But it is bias in the extreme, and to do that with a lay witness in front of the jury, because now you're planting in the jury's mind, well, they said this was true, right? We're supposed to assume this was true. That's nonsense. Absolute objection.
Yeah,
the jury's job is to determine the truth, not this witness.
I've started to call him Lanyard Man. He does not let go of that lanyard. It is there every single day. That lanyard, he wants you to know he's from the prosecutor's office.
Oh my God.
Like it's always there.
Some people that's part of their identity.
I mean, it is. But at the same time, it's like that happens. But what do you guys think? And Katt, what do you think? Like some people have come into chat and they're just like, oh, well, it's assault all day. We see the assault when he brandished the weapon on the surveillance video. That's really all the state has.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
And then there's bench notes for 245B that he's charged under that brandishing cannot be a lesser included. So there's bench notes on the jury instructions. So I thought that was interesting. And I get it, like assault, okay, if you want to do a lesser included of assault, then you've only got knuckle scrape injuries. And if we don't think it's a firearm, then the firearm didn't cause the scrapes on the hands. I would believe that it was from when you see him falling on the video or punching Ills.
Right.
So.
Right. So my definition of beyond a reasonable doubt, guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, is if there's an alternative hypothesis consistent with innocence that's reasonable and based on the evidence, you don't have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There's another reasonable way this could have happened. That is reasonable doubt. So if this guy fell down and could have scraped his knuckles on the ground, well, that's a reasonable hypothesis consistent with innocence.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
No.
And then they go to his Instagram where, because in the civil case, he's saying that he has permanent damage to these knuckles, right? Permanent damage.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see those permanent damage one more time.
Let's look at them.
I mean, like I said, I wouldn't even go to urgent care. I mean, I would just go home and maybe put a bandage on that.
I'm currently renovating this. I'm always there. My farm is always in a state of renovation. I have those things all the time because I move something from there to over there, and I hit something. I probably have worse, but I have to bring this up. I'm so sorry, but the one thing my chat yells about.
The one thing? Love you,
chat. Yeah, well, more than one thing. But when the first time they saw the knuckles, they all screamed, "That guy needs to moisturize."
Lotion. Where is it? Ironically,
and I immediately thought of the Bill Burr skit.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And to circle back to what Sean said and what you said about the lanyard, it's absolutely true. Some of these prosecutors, this becomes their whole identity.
Yes.
If we let them appear in court in a Batman outfit, they would do that.
Yes.
They would be ecstatic to be able to appear in court prosecuting defendants wearing a Batman outfit. They think they are the heroes saving society. And that leads to a lot of, I'll politely call it overreach. Some people would call it abuses. And of course, we see I said earlier, I don't like prosecutors who are theatrical. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's poor conduct. We see it all the time in these high profile cases because these high profile cases are like a drug for the prosecutors who are inclined to go that way anyway. And now for the first time in their lives, they're getting attention at levels they've never experienced before. And they grab it with both hands and go with it.
You want to hear something that's like proof of Lewin being that person? If you needed proof of it.
He actually showed up in a Batman outfit?
No. But chat for the former DA Glasgow did a AMA, like an Ask Me Anything, and Lewin went on Instagram and made 8 posts, and it was 8 questions. And one of the questions was specifically calling him out for not naming the lead prosecutor by name when doing the press release after a conviction. So not giving the prosecutor their name and shine in the press release. So there you go. There's the identity.
Katt, what was his ringtone that went off in the courtroom the other day?
Wait, that was Lewin's phone?
Yeah. Charge. Like, what is that song? Like, it's like, you know what I'm talking about, Nick? Like, it's like
the cavalry bugle.
The cavalry, yes, that's his ringtone.
Coming to the rescue.
That's it.
I mean, there's a reason the system doesn't name these criminal prosecutions, Prosecutor Joe versus defendant, Prosecutor Jane versus defendant, right? It's people versus defendant. Yeah. It's state versus defendant. They're avatars. They're temporary avatars of the state authority. They actually shouldn't matter as people in this process. No offense to the prosecutors, but in this process, who you are shouldn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, they are at the moment they are in court. They are the state's representative. They are should be representing the government, and more or less. Mr. Lewin, I don't know how he pronounces that name. I say Levin.
Well, that's confusing because there's a manager that with U.S. pronunciation, there's John Lewin, the prosecutor, and then there's Lou Levin, the witness that's going to be called Monday to testify that it was his magazine in Rocky's home. Because there was the firearms in Rocky's home were legal. They were registered. The police didn't even take them with them. At least one was registered to his manager, Lou Levin. So there's already legally registered weapon belonging to Lou Levin in this home. And he's going to testify that this Glock magazine is his, and I suspect show proof that he owns a Glock that can fit that magazine or something.
And I haven't been able to check. Does Rocky have a concealed weapon permit?
Yes.
They said
Tacopina stipulated to that.
Yeah.
And in opening.
In California, that's not that easy. In large parts of California.
In LA too.
That's really not easy.
Yeah, that's a unicorn.
So I know people who like work in Hollywood, like our actors, like you. If I said their names, you would know who they are, and they had tremendous difficulty getting a concealed carry permit in LA.
Well, his girlfriend is Rihanna, so.
Oh well, that helps. I forgot that part. Sorry, I don't really know these people.
Fenty, like Fenty Beauty, Fenty clothing line, like all the music, I
mean,
it's very helpful to be rich and famous.
Real artists, real musicians, not this. Pot-smoking Aussie model who probably works as a waitress.
That was crazy.
I don't know.
I mean, she admitted to it. She's just like, Tacopina was just like, okay, when you made the 911 call, was there anything that could have impaired your judgment or anything? She's like,
he said, were you partying? It was what day of the week? Were you partying that night? And she was like, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little pause. She's just like, I might have smoked a little pot. I just a little bit, just a smidge, just a little bit.
Yeah, and this is the prosecution's eyewitness from the 7th floor. Looked down on this situation where she could not make out anybody's face, only more or less silhouettes, but she was sure she saw that guy shooting a gun.
The 7th floor, so almost 100 feet vertical.
Yeah,
and then some horizontal distance away.
And across the more or less I mean, it must.
It's like right out of My Cousin Vinny, right? When they're doing cross on the old lady with the thick glasses. You know, how many fingers am I holding up? I just don't believe your testimony. No offense, I just don't believe you can see that.
Yeah. And across the, I mean, she must have been at least 100 yards away, at least, or if not more. And
at night,
I don't trust eyewitness testimony from people who have stood right beside them.
Well, and that's a great point about the My Cousin Vinny. You're not trying to be mean to an old lady. You're just pointing out, like, I'm not saying you're trying to lie. I'm just saying it is what it is. You might not be able to
the witnesses are human beings. We're imperfect. We make mistakes all the time. We all know that if you take 5 eyewitnesses who are all 10 feet away in perfect lighting and you separate them and you ask them what happened, you get 5 different stories. You don't get the identical story. So that variation is just built into the cake. And then you have all the defects of that are normal to people: distance, vision, lighting, perceptions, confirmation bias. Eyewitness testimony is horrible, actually. I mean, the myth is that that's the best, evidence you can have. It's bad. There's lots of evidence that is way better than that.
Yeah, and I usually bring up this experiment that happened in a university. They're holding a lecture. There's lots of students. There's a professor, and in walks a person, holds a 5-minute speech, walks out, and then 10 minutes later, okay, what was he wearing? The answers you get. Oh, he was wearing overalls. No, he was wearing a bathing. I mean, every type of answer. Eyewitness.
And that's without stress. Yeah. So when stress gets injected, the way the human brain captures and stores and recalls information under stress is completely different than our normal experience. Your brain just does not work anymore. And so people are telling you stories about what happened. And those stories are true in the sense that if you put them on a lie detector, they would pass. I mean, they believe they're telling you the truth. It doesn't mean they have any connection to reality at all.
Yeah, past and present sense impression, and how does that hit on the day of versus months later, or in this case, years later.
Right. So the hour after, if you ask them what happened an hour after and 24 hours later and 48 hours later, you get different stories. Then if they spend weeks or months talking to people, seeing how.
Oh.
As he said, seeing, he froze.
Yeah, that's a bad freeze frame. I'm so sorry.
He was cooking too. He was about to go in on the federal rules of evidence.
We were getting a Branca rant.
Well, what I was going to say there is, I can add to it. Oh, come back.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, you were just about to have a Branca rant.
It's all right. I do that. I'm not trying to be mean.
No, I enjoy Branca rants. It's like Joe rants. You just want them. But sorry you froze and you got off. Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was saying. It's fine.
Yeah, no, we were talking about witness.
Obviously, I've been doing this for 40 years because I'm passionate about it.
Well, I was gonna say, good thing about recollection. We don't remember what we were talking about. Chat, help us chat.
All right, under stress, right? Remember things is just completely different than a normal experience. We just don't. 48 hours, that's what I was talking about. And then people read how it's being reported in the media. It changes, it morphs their recollection. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That's why it's so important in these cases to get a deposition from people as early as possible, depose those witnesses as early as possible, because you might not go to trial for a year or 15 months or 18 months. And suddenly those witnesses, they take the witness and they start talking shit. And if you don't have those depositions before, you have no way to impeach them. That's just what they remember. That's what the jury's hearing. But if you got that deposition a month after the event and they said very different things, you could destroy them with impeachment on the witness stand. But you have to have the deposition, which means you have to have money, because it takes money to do depositions. So if you're an indigent defender, you got a public defender, he's not doing 30 depositions. He doesn't have the resources for that. This guy, I guess, has money. So that's good.
I mean, he's an artist in his own right. So
I think they're relying on, you know, they didn't even reach out to what you think would be key witnesses. It seems like all the key witnesses that I would expect the state to call are willing to talk to the defense, but not willing to talk to the prosecution, including like the star witness's girlfriend or paramour or situationship.
Well, now they're not, at least, right? You mean just before trial? Like
Well,
you
it's
mentioned
weird
one
because
guy who didn't.
the star witness Relly, when asked, still called her girlfriend, but he's also very prideful, and I was wondering if he just didn't want to say ex, but they might be separated. I don't know. It's unclear.
I think it's perfectly reasonable for any witness a week, 2 weeks before trial. I don't want to talk to the cops. I wouldn't want to talk to the cops. There's no upside for me. It can only go sideways.
Well, no, they didn't try to even reach the people, inquire.
Yeah, and you know, we have to keep in mind
Branca,
too that
she was there. She was there getting the shells.
was she?
Yeah.
According
I mean,
to
we have
Relly,
to keep
she
in mind
was
that
there with them.
every police investigation is defective, right? There's never a police investigation that uncovers every rock, looks at everything. That's impossible. But I think, especially in recent years, we've seen a number of police investigations that have just been so egregiously bad that I don't know how anybody can have any confidence in anything that's being presented in that courtroom. And sometimes those cases still result in guilty verdicts.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of those, sadly. We've seen a bunch of those.
We talk about the deleted text.
We haven't talked about the deleted text yet.
Yeah, we have not. Where Relly goes to, you know, all this transpires in LA. He goes back to New York and reports this, and you know, lets them get a copy of his phone. Just image it. Just take a copy of my phone. They find deleted text messages that the defense gets their hands on. And in the thread that they showed in their opening argument in the state of California, they're like, oh, you know, Rocky staged this. He wanted Relly to come to this scene of the crime. And then we find out on defense cross-examination that the other half of that conversation showed that Relly he initiated the conversation to happen in person. And he deleted those text messages. Why?
Yeah.
The prosecution also tried to give him a reason to say he deleted it, and Relly did not pick it up. Because Relly could have just conceded. The prosecution really tried to help. Relly could have just said, look, in that moment, I was pissed off and I wanted to block him, so I just deleted the thread up until that point. I deleted it because I thought at that moment I never wanted to speak to this person again. The prosecution tried to tee him up for it, but instead, he couldn't get there. He acted like there was no reason, and he just randomly decided to delete them then.
Crazy.
By the way, for folks who don't know, nothing's ever deleted.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, Relly didn't
I get evidence
know.
files all the time of people's computers, people's phones. Nothing's ever deleted. All the stuff you thought was deleted, I see it. All of it.
But
all your porn stuff, all of it.
He said all the nudes, they're there.
Deleting stuff is bad in criminal cases. He has a civil case as well. Deleting stuff in civil cases are almost worse for the person who deletes it. Especially if you can't retrieve it. Then
you don't know.
To my understanding, then more or less you have to assume it was bad for them.
Yeah, it should be presumed to be against self-interest, right? If it was maliciously deleted, not part of some standard business process or something like that.
Yeah, and this is just what we know is deleted, because the judge also said, if I remember correctly, anything prior to a certain date is irrelevant in this case. If it was, you can go back like a few days, but you can't go back 6 months to see if it was animosity between them for a long time. That's not in it. And so in the civil case, different rules. I would assume, but then again,
well, I mean, it'll be a different judge, right? So that every judge makes their own calls on evidence like that. There should be time constraints. You shouldn't be able to look back forever. There's a period of time where things are more relevant to some event that occurred, closer in proximity. And once you get beyond that, is it really relevant? If they, they had some kind of text dispute 10 years earlier, I would say no. Where that line is we leave to the discretion of the trial judge.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop Katt's side. I've been on for 10 hours today because I did the YSL.
Oh my God, Katt, you've been crushing it.
Yeah, I'm
Please go
hungry.
eat.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be chat side though, hanging out with. I haven't
Yeah.
seen the chat yet. I'm gonna hang out with the chat and listen to you guys. Good
Mm.
to see you all on this fine Friday.
Bye,
Good to see you as
Kat.
well.
Hi,
Thank
Kat.
you for
Good
being here.
night.
And, hey, Nick. I don't. I need to head out as well.
Oh.
We actually have to get caught up today on the rocket
Yeah.
trial.
Oh yeah.
Also,
going to-
Nick, I didn't know if you noticed, but the title up in the on the StreamYard thing. I wish Relly was on trial.
Did I write Relly?
Yeah, you.
Oh yeah, you got to change that to ASAP Rocky.
Yeah, we would like to see Relly on trial, but sadly that's not going to happen.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Did I?
But no, I was
Defamation.
yes. No, but I was when I was getting some work done today and taking care of stuff, people told me today was very good to watch, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I will make sure to redirect to yours once we are done here.
all right, well,
Because
Branca?
I'm not noticing I'm about to lose my voice. I've been
Oh,
cold
no.
this. I've had a cold this entire week, and not until this morning I had a voice I could rely on somewhat. There you are. I already put on the redirect there.
Okay.
What else happened this week?
Well, Branca, take care. Av, good to see you as well.
Always good to see
Yeah.
you, Sean.
Good to see
We're
you.
wrapping up, right? Because I'll take off too. I'm actually at someone else's house for dinner.
Oh,
He's at somebody. He's like, it's time
That's
to eat.
dedication right there, chat.
oh.
All right, guys.
That's dedication.
Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Thanks for having me on, Nick. Good seeing everybody.
Good
Take
to
care.
see you. Bye. And then, it was
Yeah,
just,
I got a flight to catch soon.
Yeah,
So
I know.
But it's just been great. We got to catch up on Karen Reed, man. I live here,
Yeah.
and I did
I've been-
not know this was happening.
The Karen Reed, everything about the Karen Reed case is so insane. I've been trying to get a hold of it, and I've started and restarted, but something else happens.
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't
hard for us, like people like Kat, people like me, you, like when we're trial streaming and there's two trials going on at the same time. Oof, that is tough.
Yeah,
That
because
is tough.
today was the ASAP trial.
Mm-hmm.
You had the YSL hearing, which I still need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
You also have, because I started last week with the celebrity hairdresser, also in California trial.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
I
and
heard about
that
that.
once this trial, tomorrow I'm going to do a full week recap of sorts on the hairdresser trial, and I still have a daytime job.
I don't know
What?
how you do that. I really don't. I mean, I don't know how you do that. That is a lot, Nick.
Yeah, but I must say, if I have my weird sleep schedule, which I sleep twice a day, 3.5 hours per day, so that helps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do this full 8 hours. I drove my parents insane when I was a kid because time to go to sleep. Okay, and then I slept from 9 to 12:30, and then I was up.
There it is.
Yeah. So I've been doing
There
it
it
since
is.
I was a kid. So it helps me now doing this. And for you out there, if you subscribe enough and start with all the things and a few more super chats here and there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've been telling. I've been doing my line of law for over 30 years. I'm not stopping it, but I wouldn't mind having more of a choice.
Yeah, it's you can't put your hands in all the pots. That's just what it is. That's what it is. But Nick, I'm gonna head out as well.
Yeah.
I got a flight to catch in like 5 hours. So
yeah. Oh, definitely.
I wanted to pop in because it's been forever, and I'm happy to pop in and give you guys some insight on this. But
and hopefully we can get caught up on the Karen Reed.
Yeah, it's coming up. April 1. April 1, it's coming.
It's coming.
All right, my friend. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Bye-bye. And then there was just me again. And as I said, I'm about to lose my voice here. I'm so sorry. I saw a few questions, but I need to save my voice for tomorrow. So I will do like this. Thank you to Derek for your super sticker. Thank you to Derek for being a member for 2 months. Thank you to Here Comes Drama for 5 gifted memberships. And thank you to Katt for 5 gifted memberships. Monday, this trial continues. Tomorrow, a recap of what happened in the celebrity hairdresser murder trial, or as I affectionately call it, the cheating whore murder trial. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for being here, hitting the thumbs up, and yeah, you know all the YouTube things. Thank you over at Rumble. And I will see you all back here tomorrow. Have a good one. And remember, hug your family. Unless your family is shit, then screw them and give your love to the people who deserve it. Like Tammy. Thank you for your $2 super chat. Have a good one, everybody. And for you who just joined or are new here, here's my outro. See you. Bye-bye.
Against the void, grasp the twisted threads of truth, laughing in the face of chaos, burning knowledge like a ruthless youth. Complex thoughts dance in the fire, cynics grin with a wisecrack ire, fighting shadows with sharpened wits, baring teeth in a world unfit. We're the one with biting charm, heart and brain a lethal arm. Stand unshaken, minds collide, laughing with the storm inside. We're the one with biting charm, heart and brain a lethal arm.